The temperature held at 94 degrees Fahrenheit on the afternoon of July 17, 1998. In Cedar Creek, Oklahoma, population 3,847. The kind of heat that made asphalt shimmer and caused children to seek shade under oak trees older than their grandparents. The sky was cloudless, a pale, washed-out blue that stretched endlessly over rolling hills dotted with farmhouses and barns. In this quiet corner of northeastern Oklahoma, where everyone knew each other's names and front doors stayed unlocked, a darkness was about to descend that would shatter the town's innocence forever. At 4:32 p.m., 9-year-old Sarah Hikder was last seen walking home from her friend's house on Maple Street, her pink backpack bouncing against her shoulders, her sneakers scuffing the sidewalk. 3 blocks. That's all that separated Sarah from her front door. 3 blocks she had walked dozens of times before. By 6:15 p.m., when the streetlights began to flicker on and Sarah's dinner plate sat untouched on the kitchen table, her mother Lena knew with a mother's terrible certainty that something was catastrophically wrong. The question that would haunt Cedar Creek for the next 6 years was simple, impossible, and unbearable. What happened in those 3 blocks between leaving her friend's house and never arriving home? Subscribe to our channel to follow this journey from heartbreak to justice. A case that took 6 years, advanced DNA technology, and one family's refusal to give up hope. Sarah Hikder wakes at 7:15 a.m. on July 17, 1998. Her mother hears her small feet padding down the hallway of their modest 2-story home on Chestnut Avenue. Sarah is 9 years old, 4th grade completed just 6 weeks earlier, summer stretching before her like an endless promise. She has brown hair that falls to her shoulders, freckles across her nose, and a gap-toothed smile that appears in nearly every family photograph. Her obsession that summer is horses. She draws them constantly, tapes pictures of Appaloosas and paints to her bedroom walls, begs her parents for riding lessons they cannot quite afford. Breakfast is cereal, Frosted Flakes, and orange juice. Sarah sits at the kitchen table in shorts and a pink t-shirt with a cartoon horse on the front, swinging her legs, talking about the day ahead. She has plans to go to her friend Jennifer Moss's house. Jennifer lives 3 blocks away on Maple Street. They're gonna play in Jennifer's backyard, maybe use the sprinkler if it gets too hot. Be back by 6 for dinner, Lena tells her daughter. And stay on the sidewalk. No shortcuts through yards. I know, Mom, Sarah says, rolling her eyes in that universal gesture of childhood exasperation. At 10:47 a.m., Sarah leaves the house. She's carrying her pink backpack. Inside are colored pencils, a sketchbook, a juice box, and a granola bar. Lena watches from the front porch as Sarah walks down Chestnut Avenue, turns right onto Elm Street, and disappears from view. It's a walk Sarah has made countless times. Lena feels no apprehension. This is Cedar Creek. Children walk alone here. They ride bicycles to the corner store. They play in the woods until dinner time. This is safe. At Jennifer Moss's house, the girls spend the afternoon exactly as planned. They run through the sprinkler, shrieking at the cold water. They draw pictures. Sarah sketches a horse with impossibly long legs and a flowing mane. They eat popsicles that stain their tongues red and purple. Jennifer's mother, Carol Moss, checks on them periodically, brings them lemonade at 2 p.m., tells them to reapply sunscreen at 3:30 p.m. At 4:28 p.m., Sarah announces she needs to head home. Dinner is at 6. Her mother's rule. Carol Moss walks the girls to the front door, waves as Sarah steps onto the sidewalk. The sun is still high but beginning its slow descent. The temperature has climbed to 96 degrees Fahrenheit. Sarah waves back, adjusts her pink backpack, and begins the 3-block walk home. This is the last time anyone who knows Sarah Hikder sees her alive. At 4:32 p.m., Mrs. Eleanor Pritchard, an elderly woman who lives on the corner of Maple and Elm, is watering her roses in the front yard. She sees Sarah walk past, recognizes the pink backpack, the horse t-shirt. Sarah waves. Mrs. Pritchard waves back. Later, in police interviews, Mrs. Pritchard will remember this detail with crystalline clarity. Sarah looked happy, normal, unhurried. She was walking at a child's meandering pace, occasionally stopping to look at something on the ground. A beetle, perhaps, or an interesting stone. At 4:35 p.m., approximately, something happens. The exact nature of this event will remain unknown for 6 years. But in the space between Mrs. Pritchard's rose garden and the Hikder family home on Chestnut Avenue, Sarah Hikder vanishes. At 6 p.m., Lena Hikder sets dinner on the table. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans from her garden. Sarah's plate sits empty. Lena glances at the clock, feels the first flutter of concern. Sarah is reliable. She checks in. She's never late without calling. At 6:15 p.m., Lena calls the Moss residence. Carol Moss answers, says Sarah left around 4:30 p.m. Should have been home by 4:45 at the latest. Lena thanks her, hangs up, feels the flutter become a tight knot. She calls Sarah's other friends. No one has seen her. She calls her husband, Tom, who's working late at the hardware store in town. I'm sure she's fine, Tom says, but his voice carries uncertainty. Maybe she stopped at the park? At 6:35 p.m., Lena and Tom drive the 3-block route Sarah should have walked. Slowly, looking in every yard, every driveway, every gap between houses. They see nothing. No pink backpack. No small girl in a horse t-shirt. They stop at the park. Empty. They drive to the corner store. The owner hasn't seen Sarah. By 7 p.m., as the sun begins to sink and shadows lengthen across Cedar Creek, Lena and Tom Hikder make the call that will change their lives forever. They call the Cedar Creek Police Department and report their daughter missing. Within 40 minutes, the response is massive. In a town of fewer than 4,000 people, news travels faster than radio waves. By 7:45 p.m., 23 volunteers have gathered at the Cedar Creek Community Center, which serves as the impromptu search headquarters. The police chief, Howard Brennan, a stocky man of 52 with gray hair and a face weathered by decades of Oklahoma sun, coordinates the effort. Beside him is Detective Marcus Holloway, 38, lean and serious, assigned as lead investigator. We're treating this as critical, Chief Brennan tells the assembled volunteers, his voice steady but urgent. Sarah Hikder, 9 years old, brown hair, approximately 4 feet tall, last seen wearing a pink t-shirt with a horse design, denim shorts, and white sneakers. She was carrying a pink backpack. She was walking home from a friend's house and never arrived. We need to search every inch of this town. The volunteers are divided into search teams. Each team is given a grid section: streets, yards, parks, the elementary school grounds, the woods bordering the town's eastern edge. They're equipped with flashlights, whistles, and photocopied flyers bearing Sarah's most recent school picture. A gap-toothed smile, eyes bright with childhood joy. By 8:30 p.m., as darkness settles over Cedar Creek, 57 people are searching. They call Sarah's name into the deepening night. Sarah, Sarah Hikder. The sound echoes off houses, fades into the thick summer air. Dogs bark in response. Porch lights flicker on. Residents step outside, join the search. By 9 p.m., the number has swelled to over 100. Detective Holloway and 2 uniformed officers, Officer Janet Reeves and Officer Dale Cooper, begin the systematic process of interviewing every household along Sarah's route. At 9:15 p.m., they knock on Mrs. Eleanor Pritchard's door. She invites them into her living room, offers sweet tea they politely decline, and recounts seeing Sarah at approximately 4:32 p.m. She looked fine, Mrs. Pritchard says, wringing her hands. Just walking along like always. Waved at me. Smiled. I waved back. Oh God. I should have walked her home. I should have. You couldn't have known, ma'am, Detective Holloway says gently. He makes notes. Asterisk last confirmed sighting, 4:32 p.m., corner Maple/Elm. Subject appeared normal, unaccompanied, heading east toward Chestnut Avenue asterisk at 10:05 p.m., 2 blocks from the Pritchard residence. They speak with Mr. Raymond Keller, a retired postal worker who was sitting on his front porch between 4 o'clock and 5 p.m. Keller remembers something that makes Detective Holloway's pen pause mid-stroke. There was a truck, Keller says slowly, eyes narrowed in concentration. Blue pickup. Older model, maybe mid-80s. Dusty. It drove past here around 4:30, maybe 4:35. Caught my attention because it was driving real slow. Like the driver was looking for an address or something. Did you see the driver? Holloway asks, leaning forward. Not clearly. Man, I think. White. Couldn't see much else. Sun was in my eyes. But I remember thinking it was odd, the way he was cruising. Real slow. Holloway writes, * blue pickup truck, 1980s model, dusty, male driver white, driving slowly on Elm Street, approximate 4:30 to 4:35 p.m. Priority lead. * by midnight, the active search area has expanded to include Willow Creek State Forest, a 14,000-acre expanse of dense woodland that begins 2 miles east of town. The Oklahoma Highway Patrol has deployed a FLIR-equipped helicopter, forward-looking infrared, capable of detecting body heat through tree canopy. The helicopter's rotors thump rhythmically overhead, searchlights sweeping in wide arcs. On the ground, K-9 units from neighboring counties arrive. German shepherds trained in search and rescue are given articles of Sarah's clothing, a worn sweater from her bedroom, and begin working the scent trails. The dogs lead handlers east from the Moss residence, following what investigators believe is Sarah's route home. But at the intersection of Elm and Pine, 1 block from the Hikder home, the scent trail stops. Abruptly. Completely. It's like she vanished into thin air. K-9 handler Sergeant Lisa Martinez tells Detective Holloway at 1:47 a.m. The dogs lose her right here, which usually means vehicular abduction. Someone picked her up. By 3 a.m., the temperature has dropped to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Exhausted volunteers continue searching, moving through alleys, checking dumpsters, calling Sarah's name with increasingly hoarse voices. In the command center at the community building, Detective Holloway pins a large map of Cedar Creek to a corkboard. He marks Sarah's last known location with a red pushpin, draws a circle representing a 1-mile radius. Somewhere in that circle, he believes, lies the answer. Lena and Tom Hikder sit in folding chairs, faces gray with shock and exhaustion. Lena clutches Sarah's favorite stuffed horse, pressing it to her chest. Tom stares at the map, jaw clenched. Neither has slept. Neither will sleep for many nights to come. By dawn on July 18th, the search has expanded to a 50-square-mile area. The FBI's Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team arrives from Oklahoma City at 6:20 a.m., 3 agents in dark suits, carrying aluminum cases filled with forensic equipment. They set up a mobile command post, begin coordinating with local law enforcement. Media vans from Tulsa arrive by 8 a.m., satellite dishes extending into the cloudless sky. By noon, Sarah Hikder's face is on every television screen in Oklahoma. The search continues for 6 days. Diverse search stock ponds and Willow Creek itself. Volunteers on horseback cover the state forest trails. Thermal imaging equipment scans abandoned buildings. A bloodhound named Duke is flown in from Arkansas, regarded as one of the best tracking dogs in the region. Duke works the scent trail for 3 hours, ends up at the same spot on Elm and Pine where Sergeant Martinez's dogs stopped, and can go no further. On July 23rd, Detective Holloway receives 47 tips through the dedicated hotline. Most are well-meaning but useless claimed sightings of Sarah in Tulsa, Oklahoma City, even Dallas. One call, however, stands out. A woman who wishes to remain anonymous says she saw a nervous-looking man near the corner store on Elm Street around 4 p.m. on July 17th. He was standing beside a blue pickup truck, smoking a cigarette, watching children walk past. He made me uncomfortable, the woman says, the way he was staring. I told my husband about it that evening, before we even heard about the missing girl. I said, that man gave me the creeps. Can you describe him? Holloway asks. Maybe 30s or 40s. White, average height. He was wearing a ball cap, red, I think, or orange, and jeans. That's all I remember. I didn't see his face clearly. Holloway adds this to the case file. * witness number 3. Unidentified male, 30s to 40s, white, ball cap, red/orange, blue pickup truck, near corner store Elm Street. Approximate 4 p.m., July 17, 98. Witness described subject as nervous, watching children. Asterisk by July 25, 8 days after Sarah's disappearance. The active ground search is scaled back. Volunteers are exhausted. The leads have thinned to nothing. The helicopter has logged 42 hours of flight time. Found nothing. Chief Brennan holds a press conference, voice heavy with resignation. We are transitioning from active search and rescue to a sustained investigation. We will not give up. We will find Sarah. But privately, in the windowless conference room at the Cedar Creek police station, Detective Holloway stares at the blue pushpins representing reported sightings of the blue pickup truck, 6 total, and feels the cold weight of reality settling over him. Without physical evidence, without a body, without a suspect, this case is stalling. On August 3rd, Sarah Hikder's case file is transferred to the cold case cabinet in the basement of the police station. The file is marked with a red label, missing person/presumed abduction/active investigation ongoing. But everyone knows what those words really mean. We have nothing. The pink backpack is never found. In the first 72 hours following Sarah's disappearance, the Cedar Creek Police Department, with assistance from the FBI's Evidence Response Team, collects 247 pieces of potential evidence. Most will lead nowhere, but each item is cataloged, photographed, sealed in clear plastic bags marked with alphanumeric codes, and stored in the evidence room behind the police station's main building. Item 01A. A fragment of pink fabric found snagged on a chain-link fence 3 blocks from the Moss residence. Under magnification, forensic technicians note the fabric's weave pattern matches the manufacturer of Sarah's t-shirt, distributed through Walmart stores region-wide, sold in quantities exceeding 14,000 units in 1997 to 98. The fabric is tested for DNA. Results inconclusive, too degraded by sun exposure and handling during collection. Item 04C. A partial tire track impression found in soft dirt near the intersection of elm and oak. The tread pattern is photographed using oblique lighting to enhance ridge detail, then cast using dental stone. Analysis determines the tire is a common brand Goodyear Wrangler, size P235/75 R15, typically fitted to pickup trucks manufactured between 1985 and 1995, a match to the reported blue pickup. But without a suspect vehicle, the cast sits in the evidence room, wrapped in protective foam. Item 07B. A cigarette but collected from the curb near the corner store on Elm Street. The brand is Marlboro Red. DNA extraction yields a partial profile, male contributor, Caucasian ancestry based on genetic markers. But when the profile is run through CODIS, the FBI's combined DNA index system, there is no match. The profile is labeled unknown male number 1 and stored in the database, waiting for a future match that may never come. Item 11F. Fingerprints lifted from the glass door of the corner store. 17 distinct prints are recovered using black magnetic powder and lifting tape. 15 are eliminated store employees, regular customers, police officers conducting the investigation. 2 remain unidentified. They're run through AFIS, Automated Fingerprint Identification System. No matches. The prints are photographed at 1200 dpi resolution and archived. By August 1998, Detective Holloway has spent 186 hours reviewing evidence, interviewing witnesses, and following leads that evaporate like morning dew on hot asphalt. He sits in his office late at night, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, case files spread across his desk. Photographs of Sarah, school pictures, family snapshots, the flyer image, stare back at him. In one photo, she's hugging a golden retriever, laughing. In another, she's holding up a drawing of a horse, proud. These images haunt him. The limitations of 1998 technology frustrate Holloway constantly. DNA analysis requires substantial, pristine samples. The degraded fabric from item 01A yields nothing usable. The cigarette butt profile is incomplete. Only 9 of the 13 core STR markers are recovered, insufficient for a definitive match even if a suspect is identified. Surveillance camera technology in Cedar Creek is virtually non-existent. The corner store has no cameras. Private residences have no doorbell cameras. The traffic light at Main and Elm has no red light camera. In 1998, in small-town Oklahoma, people are not yet accustomed to being watched by machines. On September 14, 1998, a soil sample collected from the tire track site, item 04C SUB, is sent to the FBI laboratory in Quantico, Virginia, for mineralogical analysis. The hope: identifying mineral composition might narrow down where the vehicle had been driven prior to arriving in Cedar Creek. The soil contains trace elements of gypsum and bentonite clay, consistent with geological formations throughout northeastern Oklahoma and southeastern Kansas. In other words, everywhere. The analysis is filed away, another dead end. On October 2nd, Holloway receives a package from the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. Inside is a forensic report on hair samples collected from the pink fabric fragment, item 01A. Using microscopic comparison, the analyst identifies two hairs adhering to the fabric. One is consistent with Sarah's known hair sample, brown, fine diameter, cuticle scale pattern matching. The second hair is dissimilar, coarser texture, dark brown to black, root intact. The report concludes, asterisk hair number 2 is from an unknown donor. Recommend DNA extraction if technology permits. Asterisk, but in 1998, mitochondrial DNA analysis from hair shafts is expensive, time-consuming, and yields results only for maternal lineage, not individual identification. The hair is carefully preserved in a sealed envelope, stored in the climate-controlled evidence room, and noted in the case file, potential key evidence, hold for future analysis. By December 1998, Detective Holloway has interviewed 43 individuals. Each interview is transcribed, filed, cross-referenced. The witness accounts begin to form a hazy picture. Eleanor Pritchard saw Sarah at 4:32 p.m., walking east on Elm, normal demeanor. Raymond Keller saw blue pickup truck, 4:30 to 4:35 p.m., driving slowly on Elm. Anonymous female witness saw nervous man with blue pickup near corner store, approximately 4 p.m. Travis Gill, age 16, rode his bicycle past Elm/Pine intersection at approximately 4:20 p.m., saw nothing unusual, did not see Sarah. Margaret Simmons, lives on Pine Street, was gardening in front yard from 4 to 5 p.m., did not see Sarah walk past, which is notable, since Sarah's route should have taken her directly past the Simmons residence. This last detail troubles Holloway. If Sarah never reached Pine Street, then the abduction occurred between Maple/Elm, Pritchard sighting, and Pine, a distance of approximately 400 feet. A window of roughly 3 minutes. Someone, likely the man in the blue pickup truck, intercepted Sarah in that narrow space and time. On January 12, 1999, the case receives brief renewed attention when a psychic contacts the police department, claiming to have visions of Sarah near water and surrounded by trees. Chief Brennan, skeptical but desperate, authorizes a search of creek beds within a 10-mile radius. Divers spend 2 days searching Willow Creek and its tributaries. They find nothing. The psychic's claim is filed under unsubstantiated tips. Months pass. The active investigation slows. Detective Holloway continues working the case, but other crimes demand attention. A string of burglaries, a domestic violence homicide, a methamphetamine lab discovered in a rural farmhouse. Sarah's case file grows thicker with dead-end leads and inconclusive forensic reports, but it moves no closer to resolution. Lena Hikder calls the police station every Tuesday. Like clockwork. Any updates? She asks, voice fragile with hope and dread. Holloway takes her calls personally, never delegates them. We're still investigating, Mrs. Hikder, he tells her. The same words every week. We haven't forgotten Sarah. And he means it. At night, before sleep, he sees Sarah's school picture, the gap-toothed smile, and feels the weight of failure. By July 2000, 2 years after the disappearance, the case has gone cold. Not officially. Not in the way that closes a file. But in the practical sense, the active leads have been exhausted. Holloway keeps a photocopy of Sarah's flyer taped to his desk. He keeps the description of the blue pickup truck in his wallet, folded and creased. Blue pickup, mid-1980s, dusty, male driver, red/orange ball cap. He never stops looking for that truck. In the first 6 months of the investigation, Detective Holloway and his team identify and interview 4 persons of interest. Each is cleared. Each leaves behind a residue of suspicion that never quite dissipates. Derek Hollins is Sarah's mother's ex-boyfriend, a relationship that ended acrimoniously 18 months before Sarah's disappearance. Lena and Derek dated for 8 months in 1996 before Lena ended things, citing Derek's temper and jealousy. Derek had limited interaction with Sarah during the relationship. Lena had been careful to keep her daughter distant from a man she increasingly recognized as unstable. On July 20, 1998, Holloway brings Derek in for questioning. The interview takes place in the Cedar Creek police station's sole interrogation room. Windowless, 10 by 12 feet, a metal table bolted to the floor, 3 chairs. Derek arrives voluntarily, accompanied by his attorney, a young man named Peter Walsh from Tulsa. "I had nothing to do with this," Derek says immediately, before Holloway even asks a question. "I haven't seen Lena in over a year. Haven't seen the kids since we broke up. Where were you on the afternoon of July 17th, between 4 o'clock and 6 p.m.? Holloway asks. "At work. I'm a mechanic at Thompson's Auto Repair in Tulsa. I was there all day, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can check." Holloway does check. Thompson's Auto Repair provides time-stamped work orders bearing Derek's signature. Oil change at 4:15 p.m. Brake pad replacement at 5:30 p.m. 2 customers confirm seeing Derek at the shop during those hours. Surveillance footage from a gas station adjacent to the shop shows Derek's vehicle, a red Chevy sedan, not a blue pickup, parked in the lot at 4:42 p.m. On July 23, Derek voluntarily provides a DNA sample, buccal swab, cells collected from the inside of his cheek. The sample is compared to the DNA profile from the cigarette butt. Item 07B. No match. Derek Hollins is cleared. But Holloway makes a note in the file. Asterisk Derek Hollins, alibi solid, DNA negative but notable anger issues. Monitor for any future contact with Hikder family. Asterisk Jimmy Carver works as a delivery driver for a beverage distribution company, a route that includes Cedar Creek. He's known in town as quiet, a bit odd, lives alone in a small house on the outskirts. On August 5th, an anonymous tip comes through the hotline. "You should talk to Jimmy Carver. He's always watching kids at the park. Gives me a bad feeling." Holloway and Officer Reeves visit Carver's residence on August 7th. Carver answers the door in a stained white t-shirt and sweatpants, blinking in the bright morning sun. He invites them inside without hesitation. The house is cluttered but not filthy. Stacks of newspapers, empty soda cans, hunting magazines. No immediate red flags. "We'd like to ask you a few questions about Sarah Hikder," Holloway says. Carver's face shows confusion, not alarm. "The missing girl? Saw it on the news. Terrible thing. I hope you find her. Were you in Cedar Creek on the afternoon of July 17th? Carver thinks. "Probably. I deliver here Tuesdays and Fridays. July 17th was a Friday. Let me check my log." He retrieves a battered spiral notebook from the kitchen counter, flips through pages. "Yeah, here. I was in Cedar Creek from about 1 to 3:30 p.m. Made deliveries to the Piggly Wiggly and Henderson's gas station. Then I drove back to Tulsa." "Do you own a pickup truck?" Holloway asks. "Nope. Company van. White Ford Econoline. You can check with my boss." Holloway does. Carver's employer confirms the delivery schedule, provides records showing Carver clocked out at the Tulsa Distribution Center at 5:12 p.m. on July 17th. Logged electronically via keycard. GPS data from the company van shows its location throughout the day. Cedar Creek at 1:47 p.m. Returning to Tulsa by 4:55 p.m. Carver could not have been in Cedar Creek at 4:30 p.m. On August 12th, Carver voluntarily provides a DNA sample. Compared to the cigarette butt profile. No match. James Carver is cleared. Frank Yates is more promising. He's a transient worker, picking up odd jobs, roofing, landscaping, handiwork. He has a criminal record, petty theft in 1991, disorderly conduct in 1995, a DUI in 1997. He drives a truck. Not blue, it's green, but it's the right era, a 1987 Dodge Ram. On September 9th, based on a tip from a Cedar Creek resident who remembers Yates doing yard work in the neighborhood around the time of Sarah's disappearance, Holloway locates Yates at a construction site in Claremore, 40 miles west. The interview is tense. Yates is defensive, agitated. "I don't know nothing about no missing kid," he says, shifting his weight, eyes darting. "Were you in Cedar Creek on July 17th? "Maybe. I work all over. Can't remember specific days." "Do you remember doing any jobs in Cedar Creek last summer?" Yates pauses. "Yeah, did some roofing work. House on Oak Street, I think. July, maybe June. Can't remember exact dates." Holloway presses. Yates becomes more uncomfortable. "Am I a suspect? Should I have a lawyer?" "You're not under arrest. We're just asking questions." Yates refuses to provide a DNA sample without a court order. Holloway obtains a warrant. On September 18th, Yates is compelled to provide a buccal swab. The sample is compared to the cigarette butt profile, the hair from the fabric, every piece of biological evidence collected in the case. No match. On any sample. Frank Yates is cleared, though Holloway's instincts nag at him. Yates's evasiveness, his criminal history, his refusal to cooperate voluntarily, all of it suggests something. But DNA doesn't lie. Yates is not their man. This suspect is more ghost than man. The anonymous female witness described a nervous-looking man with a blue pickup truck, wearing a red or orange ball cap, standing near the corner store at approximately 4 p.m. on July 17th. Despite extensive efforts, canvassing the neighborhood again, asking every store patron, reviewing receipts from that day, no one can identify this man. On October 14th, a police sketch artist works with the witness to create a composite drawing. The result is frustratingly generic. White male, 30s to 40s, average build, short hair, ball cap. The sketch is circulated to law enforcement agencies across Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas. No credible leads emerge. The man remains unknown suspect number 1. His cigarette butt, if it's even his, sits in the evidence room. His fingerprints, if they're his, are in the AFIS database, waiting. By the end of 1999, Holloway has cleared every named suspect. He has followed every credible lead. He has nothing. The case is no longer active in any practical sense. It sits in the cold case cabinet, file box labeled Hikder, Sarah, case hashtag 98-0734, missing person / presumed abduction. The blue pickup truck, if it exists, has never been found. The nervous man with the red ball cap, if he exists, has never been identified. And Sarah Hikder is still missing. For 5 years, Sarah Hikder exists in a terrible liminal space. Not confirmed dead, not found alive, suspended in the cruel uncertainty that torments her family and haunts Detective Holloway's waking hours. Lena Hikder keeps Sarah's bedroom exactly as it was on July 17, 1998. The drawings of horses remain taped to the walls. The stuffed animals sit arranged on the bed. The pink curtains, faded by sun, still hang in the window. Lena vacuums the carpet every week, dusts the shelves, as if preparing for Sarah to walk back through the door at any moment. The Hikder family phone number remains unchanged. Lena fears that if she changes it, and Sarah somehow, impossibly, finds a way to call home, she won't be able to reach them. It's an irrational fear. Lena knows this, but grief doesn't obey logic. On April 12, 2003, nearly 5 years after Sarah vanished, the answer comes. Not the answer anyone hoped for, but an answer. The discovery is made at 2:47 p.m. by 3 hikers. Rachel Dunn, age 24, Marcus Chen, age 26, and Tyler Brock, age 28. They're students from the University of Oklahoma, spending spring break exploring Willow Creek State Forest, a 14,000-acre wilderness area southeast of Cedar Creek. They've veered off the established trails, following an unmarked path that winds through dense oak and hickory forest, drawn by the promise of a scenic overlook mentioned in a decades-old guidebook. The temperature is 68 degrees Fahrenheit, the sky overcast, threatening rain. The forest floor is carpeted with dead leaves, still damp from recent showers. The air smells of earth and decay, the rich, organic scent of a forest in perpetual renewal. At approximately 2:40 p.m., Rachel Dunn stops. "Do you smell that?" she asks. The others pause. There's an odor beneath the earthy smell, faint but unmistakable. Sweet, sickly, wrong. They've all encountered dead animals in the woods before. Deer carcasses, possums, raccoons. This smells similar but somehow different. Stronger. "Probably a deer," Marcus says, but his voice carries uncertainty. They continue walking, morbid curiosity pulling them forward. The smell intensifies. At 2:47 p.m., Tyler Brock sees it. A depression in the earth, approximately 10 feet off the path, partially concealed by overgrown brush and fallen branches. The ground appears disturbed, uneven, darker than the surrounding soil. Tyler approaches, pushes aside a branch. That's when he sees the bone. The small, white, jutting from the dirt. A human bone. He knows immediately, instinctively, that it's human. The realization hits like a punch to the gut. He steps back, nearly trips over a root. "We need to call the police," he says, voice shaking. "Right now." Rachel pulls out her cell phone. No signal. They're too deep in the forest. They mark the location using GPS coordinates from Marcus's handheld unit. 35 degrees 51 minutes 23.7 seconds north. 95 degree 42 09.4 inch W. Then they run, half stumbling through the underbrush, back toward the main trail, toward civilization, toward a cell signal. At 3:22 p.m., Rachel reaches a forest ranger station at the edge of Willow Creek State Forest. She bursts through the door, breathless, and says to the ranger on duty, "We found a body. In the woods. Human bones. You need to call the police." By 4:15 p.m., the forest location is swarming with law enforcement. Detective Holloway arrives at 4:38 p.m., now 43 years old, grayer, heavier, still carrying the weight of unsolved cases in the lines of his face. He's accompanied by Chief Brennan, Officer Reeves, and a forensic team from the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. The site is immediately cordoned off with yellow tape tied between trees. Technicians in white Tyvek suits carefully document the scene. Photographs are taken from every angle. The shallow grave, if it can even be called that, is no more than 18 inches deep, the soil loosely packed, partially eroded by years of rain and root growth. Dr. Angela Moreno, a forensic anthropologist from the University of Tulsa, is called to the scene. She arrives at 5:50 p.m., just as the light is beginning to fade. She kneels beside the exposed bones, uses a soft brush to gently clear away soil. Her movements are precise, reverent. "Skeletal remains," she says quietly, speaking into a handheld recorder. "Partially exposed, partially buried. Significant scattering, likely due to animal activity, scavengers. I can see what appears to be a femur, several ribs, portions of the pelvis. Skull is partially intact, located approximately 2 feet northwest of the primary concentration." She pauses, brushes more soil away. "There's fabric, pink, synthetic material, likely polyester, and personal effects. A small hair clip, plastic, purple color." Holloway's heart sinks. He knows. Even before the formal identification, he knows. Purple hair clip, pink fabric. Sarah Hikder, Dr. Moreno continues her careful excavation as portable lights are set up, bathing the site in harsh white illumination. The process takes hours. Each bone fragment is photographed in situ before removal. Each piece of fabric, each item, is cataloged. Pink fabric consistent with t-shirt material, white synthetic fabric consistent with sneaker material, small plastic hair clip, metal zipper pull, deteriorated remnants of a backpack. At 9:34 p.m., Dr. Moreno uncovers the skull. It is partially buried, facing downward. She carefully lifts it, examines it under a magnifying lens, her expression grave. Significant trauma, she says. Multiple fractures to the cranium. Blunt force. Severe. This was... She pauses, chooses her words carefully. This was an act of extreme violence. Holloway feels bile rise in his throat. He steps away, walks 20 feet into the darkness, leans against a tree. He's been a detective for 16 years. He's seen murders, car accidents, suicides. But this, a 9-year-old girl, beaten to death, buried in a shallow grave in the woods. This breaks something in him. The skeletal remains are transported to the Oklahoma State Medical Examiner's office in Tulsa. Over the next 72 hours, Dr. Moreno conducts a comprehensive forensic analysis. The bones are laid out on an examination table, reconstructed like a macabre puzzle. Dental records, obtained from Sarah's pediatric dentist in Cedar Creek, are compared to the recovered skull. On April 15, 2003, at 11:17 a.m., the identification is confirmed. The remains are those of Sarah Elizabeth Hikder. Dr. Moreno's autopsy report, completed on April 18, details the injuries: cranial trauma, 6 distinct impact sites on the skull, consistent with blunt force trauma from a heavy object, likely a tire iron, hammer, or similar tool. The impacts fractured the frontal, parietal, and occipital bones. 2 fractures penetrated the cranial vault, likely causing immediate incapacitation and death. Cause of death: homicide. Blunt force trauma to the head. Injuries would have been fatal within minutes. Estimated time of death, based on decomposition stage, insect activity, and environmental factors, death likely occurred within 24 to 48 hours of disappearance, approximately July 17 to 19, 1998. The report concludes with a statement that will haunt everyone involved. The nature and severity of the cranial injuries suggest an attack of extreme violence, inconsistent with accidental injury. This child was murdered. On April 20, 2003, Lena and Tom Hikder are notified. Detective Holloway delivers the news in person, sitting in their living room, the same room where he sat 5 years earlier when he first took the missing person report. Lena's face collapses. She doesn't scream. She doesn't cry. She simply folds into herself, a low, keening sound emerging from somewhere deep inside. Tom sits motionless, staring at the wall, tears streaming silently down his face. "We're reopening the investigation," Holloway tells them, his voice thick. "We're going to find who did this. I promise you." And this time, he means it with every fiber of his being. The recovery of Sarah's remains transforms the investigation. What was a missing person case, complicated, elusive, stalled, becomes a confirmed homicide. The stakes, already unbearable, escalate. A child wasn't just abducted. She was murdered with savage brutality. On April 21, 2003, Detective Holloway retrieves the original case file from the cold case cabinet. The box is dusty, the papers yellowed at the edges. He spreads the contents across the conference room table. Witness statements, forensic reports, photographs, the composite sketch of the man at the corner store, the description of the blue pickup truck. Everything is re-examined. Every piece of evidence collected in 1998 is retrieved from the evidence room. Item 01A, the pink fabric found on the fence in 1998, is compared under microscope to the fabric recovered from the grave site. It's a match. The fabric found in 1998 was indeed from Sarah's t-shirt, likely torn during the abduction or subsequent struggle. Item 07B, the cigarette but with the partial DNA profile, is retested using updated methods. In 2003, DNA technology has advanced significantly since 1998. The laboratory is able to extract additional genetic markers, building a more complete profile. But when it's run through Cody's again, there's still no match. Unknown male number 1 remains unknown. The hair recovered from the fabric in 1998, item 01A SUB, becomes the focus of intense interest. The hair is carefully removed from its sealed envelope and transported to a private forensics laboratory in Dallas specializing in degraded DNA analysis. On May 2, 2003, the lab successfully extracts nuclear DNA from cells adhering to the intact hair root. The profile is complete. Male, Caucasian, specific STR markers documented. This is compared to the cigarette butt profile. No match. The hair and the cigarette butt came from different individuals, which means either multiple people were involved, or one of the samples is contamination, or the cigarette butt is irrelevant. The hair DNA profile is entered into CODIS. No match. It's entered into state databases across the region. No match. The profile is saved, labeled unknown male number 2, and stored. 5 years have passed. Technology has improved. But without a suspect, even the best DNA profile is useless. Detective Holloway re-interviews everyone from 1998. Derek Hollins, now 37, still living in Tulsa, still working as a mechanic. James Carver, now 46, still delivering beverages, still living alone. Frank Yates, now 43, currently serving time in county jail for a parole violation on an unrelated burglary charge. Holloway visits Yates in jail, asks again about July 17, 1998. Yates swears he had nothing to do with it. His alibi from 1998 still stands. His DNA still doesn't match. The blue pickup truck becomes an obsession. Holloway sends bulletins to auto registration databases, asking for records of all blue pickup trucks, 1980s models, registered in Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas between 1995 and 2000. He receives a list of 2,847 vehicles. Each owner is cross-referenced against criminal databases, DMV photos are reviewed, addresses are checked against proximity to Cedar Creek. 94 vehicles are registered to owners in the Cedar Creek region. Each is investigated. Owners are contacted, alibis are confirmed, vehicles are examined. None yield a connection to Sarah's case. On June 19, 2003, frustrated and exhausted, Holloway drives to Willow Creek State Forest. He hikes the trail, finds the location where Sarah's remains were discovered, still marked by faded yellow tape and trampled earth. He stands there for an hour trying to understand. Why here? How did the killer know about this spot? It's off the main trails, secluded, unlikely to be stumbled upon. Had the killer scouted it beforehand? Or was it chosen in panic? A desperate attempt to hide the crime? The grave was shallow. Too shallow. Almost as if the killer didn't care whether the body was found, or believed the forest would keep its secret forever. There's arrogance in that shallowness. Or guilt. Or madness. Holloway returns to his car as the sun sets, casts long shadows through the trees. He feels the case slipping through his fingers again. They have a body now. They have forensic evidence. They have DNA. But they don't have a suspect. By August 2003, the investigation stalls again. Media attention, which surged when Sarah's remains were found, fades. Other stories dominate the news cycle. The ongoing war in Iraq, the Eastern Seaboard blackout, the Columbia shuttle disaster still fresh in memory. Sarah Hikder's murder, as horrific as it is, becomes another cold case. On October 7, 2003, Detective Holloway writes in his case notes, * all active leads exhausted. No viable suspects. DNA profiles entered in all databases. Case remains open but pending new evidence. * the file is not returned to the cold case cabinet. Holloway keeps it on his desk. He keeps Sarah's school picture taped to his computer monitor. He keeps the description of the blue pickup truck in his wallet, next to his driver's license, next to a photograph of his own daughter. Blue pickup, mid-1980s, dusty, male driver, red/orange ball cap. The years pass 2005, 2 years after Sarah's remains are found. The case has gone quiet. Lena Hikder visits the grave site in Willow Creek State Forest every month. She's created a small memorial there. A wooden cross painted white, Sarah's name and dates carved into it, plastic flowers that she replaces whenever they fade. The Forest Service has granted permission for the memorial to remain, a silent acknowledgement of tragedy. Lena drives the same route every visit. Highway 62 East, then Forest Road 9, then the mile-long hike into the woods. She brings fresh flowers, usually daisies, Sarah's favorite. She sits beside the cross, talks to her daughter, tells her about mundane things, the garden, the weather, a movie she watched. Sometimes she cries. Sometimes she just sits in silence, listening to the wind move through the trees. Tom Hikder has retreated into himself. He works long hours at the hardware store, comes home exhausted, watches television until he falls asleep in his recliner. He and Lena exist in the same house but occupy different worlds of grief. Their marriage, strained beyond endurance, quietly fractures. They don't fight. They simply drift apart, two people drowning separately. Detective Holloway, now 45, has been promoted to sergeant. He supervises a team of investigators, handles administrative duties, spends less time in the field. But Sarah's case file remains on his desk. Occasionally, he pulls it out, reviews the evidence, reads the witness statements. He's looking for something he missed, some detail that will suddenly make sense, some thread that will unravel the mystery. He finds nothing. On July 17, 2005, the 7th anniversary of Sarah's disappearance, Holloway drives to the Hikder residence. Lena answers the door, face lined with years of sorrow. Holloway has no updates. He just wanted to let her know he hasn't forgotten. Lena invites him in, offers coffee. They sit in the living room, the same room where he delivered the news that Sarah's remains had been found. They don't talk much. Sometimes silence is the only language that grief understands. 2008, 10 years. A decade has passed since Sarah Hikder walked 3 blocks from a friend's house and never came home. The case file is now housed in the Major Crimes Division Cold Case Archives, stored in a climate-controlled room in the new police headquarters building. The evidence, bones, fabric, hair samples, DNA profiles, is preserved in sealed containers, waiting. Detective Marcus Holloway, now 48, is considering retirement. He's served 28 years with the Cedar Creek Police Department. He's solved dozens of cases, put away murderers and rapists and thieves. But the one case that defines his career, the one that haunts him, remains unsolved. On July 17, 2008, Lena Hikder makes her monthly visit to the memorial in Willow Creek State Forest. She's 51 now, hair gray, face worn. She places fresh daisies at the base of the cross, sits on the damp earth, talks to Sarah. "They haven't found him yet," she says quietly. "But they will. I have to believe they will." In the evidence room, Item 01A, SUB. The hair recovered from Sarah's t-shirt fabric sits in a sealed envelope inside a locked storage box. The DNA profile from that hair has been run through databases annually, an automated check for any new matches. Every year, the result is the same. No match found. The technology continues to improve. In 2008, forensic genealogy is still a nascent field, barely understood, primarily used for ancestry research by hobbyists and genealogy enthusiasts. The idea of using consumer DNA databases to solve crimes hasn't yet entered mainstream law enforcement consciousness. 2013, 15 years. Sarah Hikder would be 24 years old now. Lena sometimes imagines what she would look like, a young woman, maybe graduated from college, maybe married, maybe with children of her own. It's a painful exercise, imagining a life that was stolen. The memorial in Willow Creek State Forest has weathered and aged. The white cross is grayed, the carved letters filled with moss. Lena still visits, though less frequently now, every few months instead of every month. The grief hasn't lessened, but it's changed, transformed from acute agony into a dull, constant ache. Tom and Lena divorced in 2010. Tom moved to Tulsa, remarried, tries to build a new life. Lena remains in Cedar Creek, in the same house, Sarah's bedroom still preserved, though she no longer dusts it every week. Sometimes months pass before she enters that room. Detective Marcus Holloway retires in January 2013. His last day is March 15th. He spends it cleaning out his office, packing boxes, saying goodbyes. On his desk, buried under stacks of paperwork, he finds the old photograph of Sarah Hikder, the school picture with the gap-toothed smile. He stares at it for a long time. Then he slides it into his wallet next to the description of the blue pickup truck, next to the photograph of his own daughter, now grown. On his way out of the building for the last time, Holloway stops by the cold case archives. He pulls Sarah's file one last time. He reads through the case notes, the witness statements, the forensic reports. He's read them 1,000 times. They never change. The blue pickup truck was never found. The nervous man with the ball cap was never identified. The DNA profile, unknown male number 2, never matched a suspect. Holloway closes the file, slides it back into its box, places the box back on the shelf. As he walks away, he makes a silent promise. Asterisk, if they ever solve this, someone call me. I need to know. Asterisk 2015, 17 years. The corner store on Elm Street, where the anonymous witness saw the nervous man with the blue pickup truck, is now a vape shop. The Moss family, Jennifer Moss, Sarah's friend from that last afternoon, moved away in 2006, couldn't bear to stay in Cedar Creek. Mrs. Eleanor Pritchard, who saw Sarah wave goodbye at 4:32 p.m. on July 17, 1998, passed away in 2012. Raymond Keller, who reported the blue pickup truck, died of a heart attack in 2014. The witnesses are disappearing. The memories are fading. The case is slipping further into history. At the Cedar Creek Police Department, a new generation of detectives handles the caseload. Most have never heard of Sarah Hikder. Her file sits in the archives. One case among hundreds. A tragedy slowly being forgotten by everyone except the family that loved her. But in the evidence room, in a sealed envelope inside a locked box, the hair sample waits. The DNA profile waits. Unchanging. Patient. Ready. New hope in the spring of 2018, 20 years after Sarah Hikder's disappearance. The Cedar Creek Police Department establishes a dedicated cold case unit. It's a small operation, 2 detectives, a part-time forensic analyst, a shared office in the basement of the headquarters building. But it represents a renewed commitment to unsolved crimes, a recognition that justice delayed doesn't have to mean justice denied. Leading the unit is Lieutenant Carla Mendez, 42 years old, sharp-featured, with dark hair pulled back in a neat bun and eyes that miss nothing. Mendez transferred to Cedar Creek from the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, where she spent 12 years specializing in forensic evidence analysis, particularly DNA. She's methodical, patient, and driven by a quiet fury at the idea of killers living free while families suffer. On June 4, 2018, Lieutenant Mendez begins reviewing the cold case files. There are 37 unsolved homicides and disappearances in Cedar Creek's jurisdiction dating back to 1975. She prioritizes them based on available evidence, solvability factors, and age of the victim. Sarah Hikder's case rises to the top of the list immediately. Mendez retrieves the file from the archives, now digitized but still accompanied by the original physical evidence boxes. She spends 3 days reading every document, every witness statement, every forensic report. She studies the crime scene photographs from Willow Creek State Forest, the autopsy report detailing the brutal cranial injuries, the evidence inventory. On June 8th, she retrieves the physical evidence from storage. Box after box, each item sealed in plastic, labeled with alphanumeric codes. Item 01A, pink fabric fragment. Item 04C, tire track cast. Item 07B, cigarette butt. Item 01A SUB, hair sample. Root intact, DNA profile unknown male number 2. Mendez holds the sealed envelope containing the hair sample, turning it over in her hands. 20 years old, carefully preserved. The DNA profile extracted in 2003 is on file, complete and detailed. She pulls up the profile on her computer, reviews the genetic markers. This is good DNA, she murmurs to herself. This could be the key. She knows that forensic technology has advanced dramatically in the past 2 decades. What was impossible in 1998, extracting usable DNA from degraded samples, identifying individuals through distant familial relationships, is now routine. And there's a new tool available, something that's been making waves in cold case investigations across the country: forensic genetic genealogy. On June 12, 2018, Lieutenant Mendez contacts Orchid Cellmark, a forensic laboratory in the Woodlands, Texas, specializing in advanced DNA analysis and genetic genealogy. She speaks with Dr. Raymond Holtz, the lab director, explains the case, asks about options. "We have a complete DNA profile from 2003, Mendez tells him. "Male contributor, extracted from a hair sample found at the crime scene. It's been run through Cody's multiple times over the years. No matches. I'm wondering if genetic genealogy could help." "Absolutely," Dr. Holtz says. "If the DNA quality is good, we can build a comprehensive genetic profile and search genealogical databases for familial matches. It's the same technology that solved the Golden State Killer case. We've had success with samples even older than yours. What do you need from me? Send us the original sample if possible, or at minimum the extracted DNA. We'll perform whole genome sequencing, get as much genetic information as we can. Then we'll upload the profile to genealogical databases like GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA. We're looking for relatives, even distant ones, who've uploaded their own DNA for ancestry purposes. From there, we build a family tree and narrow down to potential suspects." "How long does it take?" "Sequencing takes about a week. Building the family tree can take anywhere from a few days to several months, depending on how many matches we find and how cooperative the relatives are. But I'll be honest, Lieutenant, this method has an extremely high success rate for cases like yours." Mendez feels something she hasn't felt in years of cold case work: hope. On June 20, 2018, Item 01A SUB. The hair sample recovered from Sarah Hikder's t-shirt fabric in 1998 is carefully removed from the climate-controlled evidence storage room. The sealed envelope, unopened since 2003, is transported under chain of custody protocols to the cold case unit office. Lieutenant Mendez, wearing nitrile gloves, opens the envelope under sterile conditions, removes the hair. It's small, approximately 2 inches long, dark brown, root intact. Under magnification, the root shows desiccation but appears structurally sound. This single hair, shed or torn during the abduction or murder, has waited 20 years to tell its story. Mendez places the hair in a specialized cryotube designed for long-term preservation of biological samples. The tube is labeled Hikder 001/original sample/Cedar Creek PD /06-20-2018. It's packaged in a padded envelope, then placed inside a nitrogen-cooled shipping container designed to maintain a stable temperature of -10 degrees Celsius during transport. On June 21, at 8:15 a.m., a courier from a specialized forensic transport service arrives at the Cedar Creek Police Department. The container is loaded into a vehicle equipped with temperature monitoring and GPS tracking. Destination: Orchid Cellmark Laboratory, The Woodlands, Texas. Distance: 437 miles. Estimated travel time: 7 hours. Mendez watches the vehicle drive away, carrying evidence that might finally solve Sarah Hikder's murder. She feels the weight of responsibility, the fragility of hope. At 3:42 p.m. on June 21, the sample arrives at Orchid Cellmark, Dr. Holtz personally receives it, signs the chain of custody form, transports it to the laboratory's processing room. The room is sterile, positive air pressure, HEPA filtration, maintained at a constant 18 degrees Celsius. Technicians work in full cleanroom suits to prevent contamination. Over the next 48 hours, the hair sample undergoes careful preparation. The root is separated from the shaft using a ceramic blade under microscopic guidance. The root cells are placed in a solution containing enzymes designed to break down cell membranes and release DNA. The process is gentle. Too much agitation can fragment the already degraded genetic material. On June 23, the DNA extraction is complete. Under UV light, the solution fluoresces faintly, confirmation that DNA is present. The concentration is measured, 3.2 nanograms per microliter. It's low but workable. The DNA is then prepared for whole genome sequencing using next-generation sequencing technology. Unlike the targeted STR, short tandem repeat, analysis used in standard forensic DNA profiling, whole genome sequencing reads the entire genetic code, all 3.2 billion base pairs. This provides vastly more information, allowing for detailed familial comparisons. The sequencing process takes 6 days. The DNA is amplified, fragmented, attached to microscopic beads, and fed into a sequencing machine that reads the genetic code nucleotide by nucleotide. The machine runs continuously, generating terabytes of data. On June 29, 2018, the sequencing is complete. Dr. Holtz reviews the results on his computer screen, a visualization of the genome, color-coded by chromosome showing coverage depth and quality scores. The data is excellent. Despite the sample's age, the genome is over 98% complete. We've got everything we need. Dr. Holtz tells his team, let's build a profile and start searching. The DNA profile is converted into a format compatible with genealogical databases. On July 2, 2018, the profile is uploaded to GeneMatch, a public database where individuals voluntarily submit their DNA results from ancestry testing companies like 23andMe and AncestryDNA. The database contains over 1 million profiles, representing millions more relatives who haven't tested but share genetic connections. The search runs overnight. By morning, the results are in 84 matches. The matches range from extremely distant sixth cousins, sharing less than 0.1% DNA, to moderately close second and third cousins, sharing 1 to 3% DNA. The closest match is a woman named Catherine Hall, residing in Las Cruces, New Mexico. She shares 0.97% of her DNA with the unknown male from Sarah Hikder's case. This suggests they share a common ancestor approximately 4 generations back, great-great-grandparents.
Dr. Holtz contacte Lieutenant Mendez.
We have matches, strong ones. We can build a tree from here. Over the next 2 weeks, a team of forensic genealogists, specialists in using DNA and historical records to construct family trees, begins the painstaking work of building a genealogical tree connecting the unknown male to his relatives. They start with Catherine Hall, contact her to explain the situation. She's cooperative, provides information about her family history, her ancestors, her living relatives. Using Catherine's information, combined with historical records, birth certificates, marriage licenses, census data, obituaries, military records, the genealogists build a tree. They work backward through time, identifying shared ancestors, then forward again, tracing all the descendants of those ancestors. The tree grows, branches multiply. By July 10th, the tree contains over 200 individuals spanning 5 generations. The genealogists use a process of elimination. They filter for males, the DNA profile is male, filter for individuals who would have been between ages 20 and 50 in 1998, the estimated age range of the suspect, filter for individuals with connections to Oklahoma or the surrounding region. The list narrows, and narrows, and narrows. By July 18, 2018, exactly 20 years to the day after Sarah Hikder disappeared, the list is down to 7 names. 7 men, all descendants of the shared ancestor, all the right age, all potentially in the right place in 1998. Lieutenant Mendez reviews the names. Most can be quickly eliminated through basic background checks. Gerald Thompson, age 52. Living in Oregon since 1985. No connection to Oklahoma. Marcus Hall, age 47. Catherine Hall's brother. Career military, stationed overseas in 1998. David Pierce, age 41.
Deceased 2010, car accident.
Robert Klein, age 55. Living in Florida, confirmed alibi for July 1998. Attending a family reunion in Tampa, documented in photographs. 3 names remain. 3 men who can't be immediately eliminated. 3 men who require deeper investigation. And then Lieutenant Mendez sees it. The 5th name on the list. Carl Benjamin Jenkins. Age 53. Mechanical engineer. Current residence. Cedar Creek, Oklahoma. *** Cedar Creek. The same town where Sarah disappeared. The same town where she lived, walked to her friend's house, vanished between elm and pine. Mendez's hands tremble slightly as she pulls up Jenkins's background information. Born 1965 in Muskogee, Oklahoma. Graduated Oklahoma State University 1987. Degree in mechanical engineering. Worked various jobs, machinist, maintenance supervisor, eventually self-employed doing equipment repair. Married 1989. Divorced 1996. No children. Minor criminal record. 1 DUI in 1994. 1 speeding ticket in. Mendez stops. Stares at the screen. Speeding ticket. Issued July 18, 1998. Location: Montana Avenue, Cedar Creek, Oklahoma. Time: 7:12 p.m. July 18th. The day after Sarah disappeared. Less than 3 hours after her expected arrival home. Mendez picks up the phone, calls Dr. Holtz. I need you to compare the DNA profile from the hair sample to any available DNA for Carl Benjamin Jenkins. I need confirmation. Now. Lieutenant Mendez works quickly but carefully. She knows that premature action, confronting Jenkins before gathering sufficient evidence, could destroy the case. She needs confirmation that Jenkins is their man. She needs physical evidence tying him directly to the crime. On July 20, 2018, Mendez drives past Jenkins's residence. A small, well-maintained house in the Vista del Sol neighborhood on the eastern edge of Cedar Creek. The house is pale yellow, single-story with a detached garage. A black pickup truck is parked in the driveway. Mendez notes the make and model. 2015 Chevrolet Silverado. Not the blue 1980s pickup described by witnesses in 1998. But people change vehicles. She runs a vehicle registration history for Carl Benjamin Jenkins. The results appear on her screen. Current: 2015 Chevrolet Silverado, black, 2010-2015. 2004 Ford F-150, silver, 2003-2010. 1999 Dodge Ram, white, 1997-2003. 1986 Ford Ranger, blue. Mendez's pulse quickens. 1986 Ford Ranger, blue. Owned by Jenkins during the time of Sarah's disappearance. She pulls up the DMV registration details for the 1986 Ford Ranger. License plate: TX759X. Mendez flips through the original case file, finds the witness statement from Raymond Keller, who saw the blue pickup truck driving slowly on Elm Street around 4:30 p.m. on July 17, 1998. Keller couldn't see the full license plate. Sun glare obscured most of it. But he remembered partial numbers. 59X. TX759X. The last 3 characters. 59X. Is a match. 20 years later, the blue pickup truck has been found. Mendez contacts the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, requests assistance in conducting covert surveillance on Carl Jenkins. She explains the situation. Genetic genealogy match, vehicle match, speeding ticket on the day after the disappearance. The OSBI agrees. This is their case now, a confirmed suspect in a child homicide. On July 23rd, surveillance begins. 2 unmarked vehicles, rotating shifts, monitoring Jenkins's movements. He follows a predictable routine, leaves home at 7:30 a.m., drives to his small workshop on Industrial Drive where he operates a solo equipment repair business, works until 6 p.m., returns home. He goes to the grocery store on Wednesdays. He attends a local diner for lunch most Fridays. He lives alone, has few visitors. But there's something else. Every few nights, irregularly, no discernible pattern, Jenkins drives at night. Not to the store. Not to a friend's house. He drives east, out of town, toward Willow Creek State Forest. He parks at a pull-off near the forest entrance. Sits in his truck for 30 to 40 minutes, smoking cigarettes, staring into the darkness. Then he drives home. On the night of July 26th, surveillance agents follow Jenkins to the forest. They park at a distance, use night vision binoculars to observe. Jenkins gets out of his truck, walks a short distance into the woods, stands there motionless for nearly an hour. He doesn't hike. He doesn't appear to be meeting anyone. He just stands there in the dark, smoking, staring. It's like he's checking on something. One of the agents reports, making sure it's still there, making sure his secret is still buried. To obtain a direct DNA sample from Jenkins for comparison, investigators employ a technique known as trash pull, legally obtaining discarded items that contain biological material. It's a well-established practice, upheld by courts. Once someone discards something in a public space, like curbside trash, they relinquish any expectation of privacy. On the morning of July 30, 2018, trash collection day in the Vista del Sol neighborhood. Agents wait until Jenkins places his trash bins at the curb and leaves for work. Once he's gone, they retrieve the bins, replace them with identical bins filled with weighted bags, and transport Jenkins's trash to the OSBI forensic laboratory. The contents are meticulously sorted. Among the coffee grounds, food wrappers, junk mail, and other detritus, investigators find 1 aluminum soda can, Coca-Cola, with saliva residue around the drinking opening, 3 cigarette butts, Marlboro Red, bearing lipid residue and epithelial cells, a used tissue containing nasal mucus. Each item is carefully packaged, labeled, and submitted for DNA analysis. On August 1st, the DNA extraction is complete. The profile is compared to the genetic profile from the hair found on Sarah Hikder's t-shirt in 1998. On August 3, 2018, Dr. Holtz calls Lieutenant Mendez. It's a match, he says. 99.99% probability. Carl Benjamin Jenkins is your suspect. Mendez closes her eyes, feels 20 years of waiting collapse into this single moment. Thank you, doctor. We'll take it from here. The arrest is planned with precision. On the morning of October 24, 2018, a joint task force, Cedar Creek Police, Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, FBI, assembles at 5:30 a.m. in a staging area 2 miles from Carl Jenkins's residence. 16 officers, for unmarked SUVs, full tactical gear. The plan: execute the arrest at Jenkins's home, simultaneous with search warrants for his residence and his workshop. At 6:15 a.m., as the sun begins to rise, the convoy rolls silently into the Vista del Sol neighborhood. The street is quiet, houses dark. 3 SUVs position at strategic points, blocking exits, covering sightlines. Lieutenant Mendez, accompanied by 2 OSBI agents and 4 uniformed officers, approaches the front door. Mendez knocks. Loud, authoritative. Police, open the door. 30 seconds pass. The door opens. Carl Benjamin Jenkins stands in the doorway, barefoot, wearing gray sweatpants and a white t-shirt, a coffee mug in his hand. He's 53 years old, slightly overweight, thinning hair, unremarkable. He could be anyone: a neighbor, a mechanic, a man you'd pass on the street without a second glance. Carl Benjamin Jenkins? Mendez says. Yes. His voice is calm, but his eyes are wary. I'm Lieutenant Carla Mendez, Cedar Creek Police. You're under arrest for the kidnapping and murder of Sarah Elizabeth Hikder. For a moment, Jenkins doesn't move. His face shows no surprise, no shock. Just a slow, almost imperceptible sag, as if a weight he's been carrying for 20 years has finally been set down. The coffee mug slips from his hand, shatters on the tile floor. Turn around. Hands behind your back. Jenkins complies. Mendez handcuffs him, recites his Miranda rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you. Do you understand these rights? Jenkins nods. Yes. He says nothing more. While Jenkins is transported to the OSBI headquarters in Tulsa for interrogation, investigators execute search warrants on his home and workshop. What they find is chilling. In the garage, hidden behind a false panel in a workbench drawer, is a small metal box. Inside, a collection of newspaper clippings about Sarah Hikder's disappearance, meticulously cut and preserved in plastic sleeves. Articles from 1998, 2003, 2005, chronicling every development in the case. A photograph, not of Sarah, of the Hikder family home, taken from across the street, zoomed in on the front door. A handwritten note on lined paper, undated. I never meant for it to happen this way. In Jenkins's bedroom, under the mattress, investigators find a journal. The entries are sporadic, fragmented, spanning years. Most are mundane work notes, expenses, reminders, but there are passages that chill investigators to the bone. Asterisk July 20th, 1998. Can't sleep. Keep seeing her face. What did I do? What did I do? Asterisk April 16th, 2003. They found her. I knew they would eventually. Forrest doesn't keep secrets forever. But they won't find me. They don't know. They can't know. Asterisk July 17th, 2015. 17 years today. Drove out there again. Stood at the spot. Said I was sorry. She can't hear me. But I said it anyway. Asterisk the journal is photographed page by page, entered into evidence. Carl Jenkins is interrogated for 6 hours on October 24, 2018, in a small room at the OSBI headquarters. He's accompanied by his court-appointed attorney, a public defender named Angela Ross. Mendez and 2 OSBI detectives conduct the interrogation. Jenkins waives his right to remain silent against his